Welcome back. Another episode of the C-Suite Unfiltered. Technically a part two of the 100th episode. I don't know if I'm going to call this 101st episode, part two of 100. Either way, we are back and we're going to dive deep into some questions. So for those of you who maybe didn't listen to the last episode, totally fine. Go back and listen to it. For those of you who did, we are interviewing Mike based on the first ever, technically not an episode of the C-Suite that he and I did almost 2 years ago, where Mike asked me to come on his channel and ask him some questions, some perspective questions from his employees for his audience to just see a little bit of a different side and interacting with his employees. And so we're going to dive back into that. And this first question here that we're going to go into is actually one of my favorite questions that I asked you previously 2 years ago. So now we get to see what changed about your answer. And for this question, I do actually remember what you said. The rest of them, I'm not 100% sure. But this one, I distinctly remember what you said. So
the amount of prelude to this question.
We are getting into it right now. If I gave you $1 million tax-free, what would you do with it in your businesses? Go.
I'll get 4 to 5 really good engineers.
That's it?
That's all I need, dude.
Just for Copilot?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it? That's just a very short answer?
Yeah, that's all I would do.
All right. Fair. Cool.
Let me think what I've said back then. 2 years ago. Was this before Copilot when you interviewed me?
We weren't discussing Copilot. We didn't say Copilot. So you did talk about software development. You talked about actually putting some into P4P, and your initial reaction was like, and I think this shows just the growth. You said people don't realize you can spend $1 million really fast. So you were like, we could burn through it. I think you maybe said something about the HQ, which sore subject, but yeah. So the $1 million is not that fun. Now I do remember what you said about this one, which is, we're going to take it up a notch. If I gave you $10 million, this answer probably will change because the businesses have changed so much in 2 years. If I gave you $10 million tax-free and you had to spend it on the businesses, what are we doing with that?
Oh, that's tough, dude. 10 million? I'd probably just hire 20 to 40 different engineers. I would probably... Give me a second. I'd probably hire 1 or 2 people that are like way out of our league in terms of engineers, and then the rest I would just like create way more. It's like we have a few designers, we have several engineers, we have back end, we have front end. I would probably just like try to triple everyone's department size, with like very clear expectations of output. So like the speed has to increase, and we do that by chunking the project down. So like we have all these projects we want to do, and we're like working through them, and I'd just like take 3 times as much firepower and be like, okay, we're starting at 3 different segments of this, which means we will probably not align it perfectly, but like we need output. That's probably what I do. 10 million, I would definitely, 1, 2, 3 I would get I'd probably get 15 engineers. I would get 1 or 2. I would probably get ahead of marketing. I'd definitely get ahead of marketing, because like I feel like I kind of play that role right now. I'd get ahead of marketing that's done this before for SaaS. I already got a CFO, so I think that's it. That's it. Engineers, head of marketing, that's done SaaS, and when I say engineers, probably like some front end, some back end, some designers, and then 1 or 2 people that have gone from under 50 million to $1 billion in revenue in their role.
Fair enough. Good answer. I don't have $10 million, but good answer. Now, do you want to know what your answer was 2+ years ago? Oh, I think you're on mute.
It's probably like build the headquarters, P4P, maybe building an employee. I remember thinking like about having a place for the employees to come and train them, like around the country.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you mentioned that, but I know the core was basically take over Washington State with Augusta corporate locations. So I'm sure a lot of the new owners in Washington State are very happy you didn't do that. But yes, you said we'd basically just expand a bunch of corporate locations all throughout Washington State. We could deploy that capital, buy a bunch of trucks, hire a bunch of general managers, scale it very rapidly, and just dominate in Washington State. So that was kind of the original play. Obviously, Copilot has very much so changed that, because instead of putting, basically it sounds like, any of that 10 million into Augusta, hypothetically, it's all going to Copilot. Would there be anything that you would put into Augusta with that $10 million? Or is you just think the development and the trickle down from all the benefits of Copilot and software and integrations will also mutually benefit Augusta and its users?
There's quite a few projects that we already have on the schedule that would be for Augusta only. So I just be able to get to them sooner.
Yeah.
So yeah, better
All
integration
right.
of stuff that we do, like from this across the entire stack, from command center, um, across the whole system, internal stuff. So that'd be helpful. Like we're already gassing like designers, for example, on the media team for Augusta. So that kind of has taken priority, honestly. But
Yeah.
yeah, if we had 10 million, if we had 20 million, I'd probably put a couple million towards like doing like a 10 or 20 location um, thing. The thing is, you only need around 100,000 to 150,000 to get a location started. And I would probably, honestly, I'd probably finance all my trucks
Mm-hmm.
now and get a location started for a lot less, like 50 grand. So if I had $1 million I put towards it, I could start 20, get 3 regional managers, fit in 20 GMs. Like I would do it the right way.
Yeah.
That'd be fun, but and I'd need about $1 million conservatively with that much debt, probably 1.5 million. But I don't think it'd be the best use of our funds for Augusta Nation or for the industry and what we're trying to do. Um, until there's so much money that like I don't know where to deploy it.
Yeah.
So that is much more like Michael's income, which is less important right now. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, here's a tangent. Is it harder to have? This is a bad question because I know your answer. Would it be harder to have capital you don't know how to deploy, or a need for capital that you extraditiously need to deploy?
You never want to deploy capital in a manner of like I just need to get rid of this. It almost never ends well. So I would rather have the money just sitting there because I could easily get 5%, 6% somewhere from
Yeah.
it for it. Um, and yeah, so you never want to have a lack of funds. And then secondly, you don't want to be deploying money when you don't really have a good use for it. So
Mm-hmm.
I see it as kind of like if and when people see me start a whole bunch of locations, it'll be like, okay, Michael's trying to make sure he can get some money in his pocket, which I'm not. Hey, I love making money. Let's go. But like right now, every dollar Michael has is being put into the business, including like as of today, I am selling another piece of my real estate just to make sure.
Oh, there's an
And I'm like,
update.
yeah, just staying more and more focused on the businesses. So
Can I ask which one?
the one with the tiny house down in Mount Vernon.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. 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 Oh, dude, that was
Yeah.
your retreat, though.
I know, dude. We gotta stay focused.
Yeah. Good memories down there. All right. Well, that was the first two parts of that question. Now the third part, $100 million. We got to have some fun with it. So, to the excessive capital, what would you do with $100 million? You get that tomorrow. What are we doing?
I would definitely start a whole branch of locations. I'd probably put at least 10 million towards it. I would not leverage it at all if I had that much capital. I'd probably start 100 locations, and I would have a full executive team built out for those 100 locations. So it wouldn't just be like GM and regional, there would be more stack behind it. And I would prove out the model for basically private equity. So I'd say, like, look, if you came in and you have this stack of executive team, you would be able to do this because we've proven it out at one location. We have now 2 or 3 executive models that are going to prove it at 6 locations. I did that last year or 2 years ago at 7 locations. But like it'd be a whole different ballgame if I'm able to start 100 of these, take over one full state, have a marketing co-op between all 100 locations, and share resources across all of them, etc. So I would love to prove that out. I do think you would need at least $10 million liquid for that, even if you did a little bit of leverage. Ideally more like 15 million. So if I had 100 million, I'd probably put 10 to 15 towards that, and proving out the entire, having an executive team all the way down to regional managers, general managers, etc. What else would I do? I would I would hire a like same amount of craziness on the engineering side. I do think I could spend 50 million on talent, when it comes to engineers. I would probably do some acquisitions to speed up some things. I would, I don't know if I should say this. Give me one second. I would probably try to buy out another franchise.
Little M&A.
Yeah, I would definitely. Oh, I definitely do M&A. Like on half the
Yeah,
money, I'd
yeah,
do M&A. So 50
yeah,
million, I'd
totally.
probably put towards M&A, because I know if we could roll it up and then I could do a few things to it, we can improve the valuation a lot, and we'd be able to speed up the process of going public. So that would probably be 50 million. Would literally just be M&A, and I definitely have some targets, but they're just way out of my price range. So I'm waiting for them to continue to fail. And then the other 50 would be kind of more and more of what we already talked about. So 10 to 15 million for a stack of 100 locations. And then, the other 35 million would go towards hiring.
Yeah, fair. Would you do M&A on the software side?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
Um,
because it doesn't
yeah,
integrate as easily, like just
it's
based
very
on like
difficult.
code
Yeah.
base and
Yeah.
structure and yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount of value that I could do there, because there's so much time that you then have to absorb the code base. And I've even learned like what we did a couple years ago by starting with a code base. Now it's like my arch nemesis. Like it started as like my advantage is speed, and it's turned into like, oh my goodness, like we have now two code bases and old legacy code that is scrambled versus the new stuff that we can work faster in. Every single thing becomes a two-stage process of like, let's get it from one code base to the next, and it's like a huge process, and users don't see a single thing, not a single thing. But we're simply just switching from like PHP to like React and Next.js.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
like that's a huge technical lift and no one sees a single change. And then stage two is like, let's actually make the changes, that the user sees on the front end. So I hate that. So I would hate getting like another code base involved and you have to like integrate it, or do you leave it as separate brands and now you have like you dilute the brand. So I don't think I would do mergers and acquisitions on the SaaS side. I would, just go really deep with our current product, and then I would, um, yeah, I would just like everything else would just be like gassed. Even the media side would get
Yeah.
gassed.
Oh
Like you
yeah.
just do everything to the next level. But yeah, that's probably about it.
I like that. I like that. That's good. So I like that you had like a very clear plan. So what was those percentage breakdowns again? Just roughly of how you would
Uh,
spend it?
Probably 50% M&A, which I actually have specific targets for that.
Cool.
Um, and the reason I would go after those ones is because their multiples are low. They're struggling. They're actually like declining revenue. I think I could make a big impact in the industry if I bought them. Um, it would vertically integrate us on several different measures. I gotta be careful, sorry, because I
You're
actually
good.
think
You're,
some of
you're
these will
fine.
actually happen one day. Um, and then, uh, and then 15% would probably go towards my own locations that I would start instead of Augusta, and then 35% towards talent acquisition.
Cool. Love that. Well, do you want to know what your answer was 2 years ago?
I don't know, dude. Was it just starting more locations at that time? Like I just had this. I didn't really have anything to dump money into, so it was very much like just start more locations and make more money myself.
Yeah, it was start more locations, but actually even before you said that, it was you said, and I quote, you have to get into philanthropy at that point. So I think not in a bad way. I know it's like it's funny the juxtaposition there, but I think it is cool that it shows like you can tactically think through how to use that money now. Whereas I feel like 2 years ago, maybe it's like it's an overwhelming amount of money. Like you have to get into philanthropy. That's too much money, right? Not in a bad way, and that's not the verbiage you used, but I do think there is contextual knowledge that you now have where you could see how $100 million could be deployed previous to well philanthropy. That's just too much money. Like you have to give it away, and not saying that you would give it all away, but that was kind of the answer. So I think it's a cool evolution, if you will. Even in myself, I think I've told you this quote before. I can't remember who said it, and I'm definitely not directly quoting it perfectly, but it was like you can tell you can tell the success of the people you're in, or the group of people you're around, or the conversations you're having, based on their like lowest dollar amount referred to. And so it's like when you say like one, it's, well, is that $1? Is
One
that
stick.
100? Is that 1,000? Is that 1,000,000? Right. And you and I just had a conversation before the pod, and it was like we were talking, and I said, so do you think like 68's good? And we're talking in thousands. Right. And so it's like that's the layers. And as you go up, you start to talk in bigger amounts because you can conceptualize those bigger amounts. Right. And I think that shows the evolution that you've had. So that's just my observation. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, dude. Like it's so funny because like um even like a billion, it sounds so stupid to say it, but it's like, okay, I can actually figure out like how we could spend that, how it could be
Yeah.
used. And like giving it away to me is like it's kind of like when you do stock buybacks or you do higher dividends when it comes to a publicly traded company. It's like we do not know what to do with this money. So therefore we will just redistribute it back to the investors, or we will buy our own stock because we have no idea what to do with this money. Good place to be in. Like no one's complaining, but also like I do think there's a better use of funds, even compared to giving it away. And there's like building something productive that allows so many more people to be productive than just the money that you give. Because once you give the money, it's gone. It's like the classic, teach a man how to fish instead of give him fish. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think, in general, when it comes to philanthropy, I think it's like the the giving away just straight hard cash to somebody is the last form of giving that I would ever want to do. I think before that, I want to create tools and resources for people to be able to improve their business, make more money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like instead, like when the orphanage thing, it was like, yes, we can spend X amount and build the orphanage, but like, why not just spend 20% more and make sure that there's training facilities in place for welding for the guys, that we actually built the chicken coop to have 200 chickens so they had a more dependable food source, to be able to do like the vertical farming stuff inside so that way like they could have like spend 20% more but create the vehicle that lasts for a long time. And so I kind of look at it as like even a billion, it's just be like I could spend that, I could definitely build more tools and resources for people that will be, and it would be sustainable, because once you give the money to somebody, assuming that they do something right with it, great. Let's assume that for a moment. It's done right, it's done well, they do something good with it. It's gone. Versus
Mm-hmm.
building a thing that, even if it costs money to use, is sustainable and can last much, much longer, and therefore have a wider impact. And so, if you think of philanthropy and giving in general as maximizing the output of your giving, then I much more look at what is the recurring nature and the longevity of the output, even if it's smaller at the beginning, but if it can last without you, then I believe that the net positive is much greater.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on, and this is going on a massive tangent here, like a philanthropic arm to your brand? Right. And I think posed this question to you before. I think of like my dad was a career employee of BP. Right. And whatever your thoughts are about them, I don't care. But they had a philanthropic arm, United Way. And that was the BP's way of giving back to communities. And my dad was very involved in that. He was one of the first people to volunteer and help with their organizations and do whatever, nonprofit partnerships that they were working on. And like he loved that. Is that something that you think you'd ever do with Augusta, my cold co-pilot, where there would be like an arm, a brand, whatever you want to call it, that specifically goes out and works with local nonprofits and gives back to local communities?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
For now, it's very separate. Like
Totally. 100%.
my brand is publicly is I will make tons of money and I will
Yeah.
help you make tons of money, and that's all I care about.
Yeah.
And then what I do with my money in the back end, I can be more philanthropic with or give it away or whatever. But I think eventually there is certainly something to be said about more people getting involved, and so making it public is helpful. So like there's certainly something I have thoughts around Augusta Nation next year. Kind of once we hit around 250 locations. Some of my thoughts around what we could do for communities, etc. But it's very easy. It's very I feel like you dilute the brand somewhat if it starts to get used for promotion. Um,
Mm.
and so like if we started Augusta Philanthropy or whatever, it's just like there's just a little bit of a, okay, that's being used for promotion. And it's not to say it's bad. I am a huge fan of showcasing giving and philanthropy and good things so that other people it becomes more of a culture. And so like for example, like Mr. Beast has his philanthropy arm,
Yep.
and it's millions of views based upon those videos. And yes, is some of it hyped up? Yes. Is a lot of it photoshopped and CG'd? Yes, and made. But like it gets millions of people to see someone else giving, and um, seeing the positive benefits that come with giving, like the things that you feel, and like getting that involvement is very cool. So I'm a big fan of it. And I also think it invites huge amounts of opposition to the brand. So like Mr. Beast, a lot of the things around him actually come back to like the philanthropy and what people have against him. Like
Hmm.
saying like, oh, well, you were helping this country, or like you didn't really build that hospital, like you actually just fixed it up, like those wells weren't really drilled. It's like, like he obviously did that for the video, but he's bringing awareness, and like awareness is a different form of philanthropy, in my opinion. And so if you have a huge audience, sometimes bringing awareness to something is actually the best thing you can do for anybody. Um, like blind people and people that couldn't walk, et cetera, the things that he has done, it just brings awareness to a certain topic. And that's actually the good that he's doing. It's not necessarily the 1,000 people he's helped, it's the 50 million that watch the video and that brings awareness to something. I don't have that big of a platform. And so I just kind of like, I do eventually believe that one day we will have something at Augusta where all the owners can contribute to it. The question becomes like, do we advertise that? Do we start talking about all the good that we're doing? Maybe. And can both sides of that win? Can you give back to the community and also allow it to be able to make you more money, bring you more customers, have positive attributions with the brand? Yes, absolutely. For now, I've just made it very delineated. It's like we make money over here, and then we go give it, and we do whatever we want with it. And I don't really advertise that part.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to go down a rabbit trail. I won't. I would briefly argue, and I'm just going to put one statement out there. If you want to rebuttal, you can. I would say awareness without action is inconsequential. Like awareness without action, whether it be from the person that's creating the awareness or a specific call to action for the audience, is completely inconsequential. And if you look at it from a biblical perspective, faith without works is dead. And so awareness is just faith in a product, faith in a act, in a service, whatever it may be, but there must be work behind that. There must be effort put into it. So that would be my generalization. So I do think criticism around generating awareness for the sake of generating awareness is null and void. I don't get it unless you're actually going to take action or create a call to action or have a donate button. And I know that like Beast Philanthropy and like I don't know all the logistics, but like I know in most of those videos they have a donate button or a link or something, right? So like that's great. I'm pro that. That is an action that you're calling people to. But I digress either way. So we're gonna jump to another question here. Now this one is kind of random, but hey, I asked it, so we're gonna ask it again. It's about cultural norms. What business or corporate cultural norms would you change and why?
Interesting. This is like globally.
This is just for you. I don't know. It's contextualized for our conversation 2 years ago. It's, what if you had certain cultural norms in business or corporate,
Mm-hmm.
what would you change? Like, obviously, you work with a lot of business owners. Obviously, on the turnarounds, you see certain patterns that you notice as potentially negative. Inside of Copilot, there's obviously a lot of hierarchy, a lot of systems. Same thing inside of Augusta. Like, are there any cultural norms that you would prefer to go away with?
Okay, and you're talking not inside of our company,
Just
and
generally.
then just generally. Okay.
Yeah, but you could,
Um.
if you want to, open the curtain a little bit, let people peek inside.
Okay. Cultural norms globally. I would just say like be very clear with language around money, and not treating it like it's a bad thing or that like we can't make more of it, because like we're all trying to make more money and yet like we can't say that, and I think it's weird. So like just language around money, because if we can make the goal really clear, then we can actually fix the problems, and instead of just like beating around the bush. And so I tend to be much more direct now, I think, especially 2 years ago. And just be like, let's cut to the chase. We want to make more money. Here's how to do that. And then with that
Hmm.
more money, we can do X, Y, and Z. And that's fine. That's up to you. But like, let's just focus on making more money. Um, I don't know. Just yeah, like really clear. Like, let's make more money. 'Cause, like it's just
Yeah.
it's a number. It's something we can actually achieve versus like all these other nebulous things that are very difficult to quantify, hard to measure, hard to prove. Uh, it's just difficult.
Hmm. Do you think that, because I would argue that and I agree with you that how do we make more money? Like removing a lot of the language around that, making it less of a taboo topic. Ultimately, like if you are in business, you're selling a product to turn a profit, you are paying your employees and hopefully incentivizing them to work harder to then make more money. Everybody's just trying to make more money in the grand scheme of business. Now, I would argue that saying that without having clear frameworks is extremely vague. And I think in the context of what you're saying, with you've become and you have made it very clear to your teams that this is about making more money for Augusta, the owners in Augusta, the users of Copilot. We want to make them all more money. Like that is the direction we're heading in. But we can say that very plainly because we have frameworks around it. And I'm thinking actually of a question you got on a mastermind inside of Augusta last week, where an owner asked you a pretty complex question about upsells and OTP and this, that, or the other. And you were like, well, are you in growth or profit mode? Right. And we have a framework to decide how that business owner should make more money. So the goal was we want him to make more money. His question was about how do I make more money? And we retreated back to a framework to help him decide how he should make more money. So that would be kind of my pushback. I guess there isn't really a question there. I agree with you that we should be more open about talking about it. I have a couple of select friends that we are extremely open about how much we make, how much we're investing. I'm very thankful for those relationships where we can talk about that. But that's like two people. Out of like the hundreds I know, I can do that comfortably with two people, right? And that's crazy. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do people develop frameworks to be able to have those conversations and make them productive? Do you see what I'm getting at? I'm trying to.
Yeah. Um, it's difficult to measure all of that stuff. And so I agree with you that once someone makes like next question after like, okay, let's all get clear that we need to make more money. The next question is how do I make more money? And so yes, having frameworks and systems and education around knowing how to do that is a positive thing. Um, I just can't control that variable as to whether or not someone wants education, wants to reach out for help, wants coaching. And so I do know that in order to make more money, they will need those things. And so I try to make the goal and like the end result somewhat of the focus, because assuming they have the desire, the work ethic, and the ability to get on the internet, they should be able to figure out the steps along the way and they should be able to learn. Now, if someone doesn't have the ability to learn, then they might get distracted or off course in trying to pursue the goal. But if the pursuit is like make more money, that's very clear. Like the definition of that is clear. Like yes or no, you made more money than last year. Yes or no, I made more money now than I do 5 years ago. Like that is yes or no question. And then they can work backwards from that, assuming they're humble enough to learn. And so that is the key ingredient. And so like if I had to add a 2.0 version to like make more money, it'd be like
Yeah.
make more money and be teachable. Because if you're teachable
Yeah.
and you have a clear goal, then you will learn the steps, the processes, the systems, and the frameworks required to make the more money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you there wholeheartedly. What are your thoughts to the hypothetical person out there that doesn't like those oversimplifications? Because I struggle with that a lot, right? There are so many influencers out there, yourself included, that because you have all this experience and all this industry knowledge and whatever, that you can see things very simply. You can see it very clearly. But we're humans. We like to muddy the waters. We like to think that our situation's special, whatever it may be. And I was listening to Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson, Alex Hormozy, that 4 hour long episode. And one of the things that Hormozy said, and I don't know if this is a direct quote, because I was like, I should totally use that on sales calls, right? And he was like, the only thing guaranteed about making an investment is that your bank account will go down. And I was like, gosh, that's so true. Like it's so simple, but like people want to push back on that. Well, technically, and it's like, no, that's if you're going to make an investment, it means you are moving money out of your bank account somewhere else. Like that is the truest form of investing. And there's no guarantee on return, but like getting down to that simplification of, and then hopefully if you can execute, you'll get a return. Right. And I was like, that's sales in a nutshell. I'm trying to sell someone on a product that will hopefully give them a return. And in order to do that, their bank account has to go down. So what are your thoughts on those oversimplifications? Do you think that people need to just embrace them and stop trying to muddy the waters, or stop trying to see themselves as different or special or unique? Or do you think there needs to be a ground level understanding before they can jump to that simplification?
I think there's kind of two things at play there. One is it's a bundled term, and then the second thing is like dealing in the world of shoulds and giving prescriptions. So the first being bundled terms. Like if I tell someone who has tons of sales experience to go sell this product, they just figure it out. They'll figure out, well, should it be outbound, should it be inbound, should it be direct, should it be over the phone, should it be via Facebook ads. Like they will figure it out. So it's a bundled term of sell more stuff that they will be able to figure out because they have the experience. And so a lot of times the person that feels like things that are said are too simplified is a matter of they don't have the skills. And so what they need is the humility to go learn the skills, and actually then it just becomes, like we talked about, a form of they just lack education, and they just lack the reps to go out and gain the skills required to get to that bundled term, which now makes a lot of sense. So if like 6 years ago I told you, hey, go scale up the sales team, you would have been like, what does that even mean? Like,
Yeah.
cool. Whereas like now to you, that means something very different because you've gained skills and you've had years of reps. And so most people give up in the reps part. Most people in the past 2 years in your role would have given up because like it seemed like you were doing the same thing. But 2 years ago, what we've talked about in the past couple of weeks for you is like scale up the sales team looks very, very clear, and you have a clear path to doing it. And so most people give up in the reps part. So I would say first off, you have to talk about bundled terms. And so when you talk about bundled terms, anyone that lacks humility to learn is going to say that that's too simple and I cannot take action, because they're not giving a prescription and a very, very detailed step by step of how to do something. And that leads into the second part, which is like, I think by saying something like make more money, you take away any prescription. Like you should do this or you should do that, because as soon as you do that, you orient a position of risk for your brand. So if I tell everyone they should do something in their business, and I use very defined terms, and then they taint it slightly because everyone does by some percentage point, and then the outcome doesn't happen, and now I'm called a liar. And so there has to be a certain degree of safety that I have to, when I put public content out around shoulds and this is the next step and do this thing and being prescriptive, because if they taint it, and everyone does to some extent, but if they taint it enough and the outcome doesn't happen and they don't make more money, they will then come back to me and call me a liar. And they will then discredit all the other stuff that I say, and potentially keep someone else from listening to the words that I say, as a testimonial of my disgrace. And so this is why bundled terms are many times often used by people that are successful, wealthy, whatever you want to call it. But I would say the same thing is true when it comes to health, when it comes to relationships. Like, what did you do better relationship? Communicate. What do I do better if I want to, like, get healthier, eat meat, lift heavy things? Like, these are the type of bundled terms that we use. But there are blocking and tackling. There is like, oh, like, so I get it. So you're saying there's like periodic ways to lift weights. There is, you're going to superset things. You're going to change weights, volume. You're going to change the weights, like in terms of high rep versus low volume. Like there's all these little breakdowns of things. But if you get in the weeds of those things, people get lost there. Like if we'd go over what all the things you've had to learn in terms of reps over the past year, everyone just gets lost in those. And so, anyways, I want a tangent, but that I agree with you as simplification, but that is why. It's because it's a bundled term, and adding prescription and step-by-step details muddies the waters for people that are going to taint it and then going to mess up and then come back to you and cause, like, this is why Alex is so successful in business training, is because he keeps things really simple, and he does talk in bundled terms that allows us to be able to fill in the gaps if we're humble enough to learn and dig deeper. Like if you look at his quotes, for example, that the vast majority of people see, like 90% of his audience probably just sees his short form, his quotes, because it's just so viral. Those are very bundled. But like if you drill deep into whether you go to his workshop or you talk to his team or you read his books, like those are drilling deep that a small percentage of his audience does. But that's where the prescription is. That's when you start breaking apart like the value equation. Like the value equation does not do great on a short, but it's a great long tail piece of content that gives the step-by-step clarity that people are looking for, but most people are not willing to go after the prescription. And so the bundled term gives you protection as a content creator from anyone being able to say, I tried that and it didn't work.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think even contextually for you with P4P, like your short form content on P4P usually has a lot of like hate comments. Like it really does. Like, I can't believe you're taking away their pay. A yellow slip, how disgraceful. Oh my gosh, that's illegal. You can't take away their pay. Well, that's just P4P, pay for performance. So the better you perform, the more you get paid. You make a mistake, the less you get paid, right? That's the short form in your face bundled term. But then if you actually watch a full, 30-minute, hour-long breakdown of how P4P, that's the prescription, as you're saying. And it works. It does work. But people don't want to take the prescription. They don't want to take the time. So, no, it's an interesting take. And I appreciate the breakdown. I think that provides clarity for me. Hopefully it provides clarity for other people that, you have to be willing to do the work or take the prescription in order to understand those bundled terms. But yeah, oversimplification, I think one of the issues that I would have, and I'll end with this, is that it's also sometimes hard to determine who's oversimplified because they have the skills and the authority to speak on those things, and who's just an influencer, right?
And that's where you look at their track record, like what you've done. If you've done it and then you have a bundled term, usually it's a function of like they are filling in all the gaps, right? So, anyways, good point.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you want to wrap there? We could go in one more question. We can wrap there. It kind of depends on your schedule.
Go ahead. What's your non-financial advice for today?
My non-financial advice, I'll be 100% honest. I didn't really have any, so I didn't want to, overstep, if you will. But I can try to think of some because I did go away this weekend. I had some good musings on my own, just some thoughts I had. So maybe I'll try to think of something if you want to go.
Okay. All Trails app, highly recommend. You can get the web version for free, but man, it's annoying to scroll through their site. If you block your pop-up blockers, you can get their site halfway decently for free. But yes, the All Trails app allows you to see all the trails in your local area, rank up by like difficulty, length, etc. So I'm trying to broaden my horizons from like the 2 or 3 trails that I've ran for my entire life locally, and so that's the sketch. Brianna and I are trying to broaden our horizons. So I think this weekend we might do like Heliotrope or Skyline. There's a couple of really good ones I've done like once, but I've stuck to the same 3 trails pretty much every weekend for my whole life. So we're gonna broaden the horizons, given the fact that there's probably thousands of trails within a matter of an hour drive from us.
All right, well, this is going to be hyper focused, so you can click off here, like and subscribe. You're talking Heliotrope Ridge up in Mount Baker. Fantastic, great trail. Have you done Goat Mountain?
No.
Goat Mountain, you'll like that one. Okay. That one will beat you up.
Okay, all right.
So I haven't done it for a few years, but I remember doing it, and it's rough. So there you go. So sweet. Well, that's all I got. Like and subscribe. Appreciate it for everyone following and listening. And we'll dive deeper into part 3, I guess, next time.
Good stuff. Anything else, dude?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, sir, for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.